Now, as we're coming up to the NBA trade deadline, which means we're just about halfway through this NBA season, the Boston Celtics have been nothing short of dominant. We look at them right now, they're first place in the Eastern Conference, and not just first place in the Eastern Conference, but first place in all of the NBA. And to put into perspective of how dominant these guys have been so far this season, we look at the team in second and third place in the Eastern Conference, the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Milwaukee Bucks. They have 33 wins on the season, so the Boston Celtics are 6 games ahead of their competition in terms of giving up that number 1 seed for home court advantage, which is so important. Same thing in the Western Conference. I believe the Oklahoma City Thunder, they have that number 1 spot right now, and they have 35 wins on the season. So the Boston Celtics have a 4-game lead over first place in the Western Conference, and then a 6-game lead over second place in the Eastern Conference. So they've really been dominating their competition and winning a majority of their games. So we look at this, and with the trade deadline approaching, you would think that the Boston Celtics, they won't buy or sell at the NBA trade deadline because they're playing at such a high level, but that's exactly what Brad Stevens wanted us all to think, as he's made, in my opinion, an outstanding trade for the Boston Celtics. He took Lamar Stevens, who, to be honest with you guys, I didn't have no idea that Lamar Stevens was on the Boston Celtics, and then he took 2 additional second-round picks, and he sent that to the Memphis Grizzlies, and in return, they got Xavier Tillman, which I think was a fantastic pickup for the Boston Celtics that makes sense in so many different ways. And before we get into the X's and the O's and how impactful Xavier Tillman will be on the basketball court for the Boston Celtics, one thing that I think is important to look at is bringing him in. Now, the Boston Celtics, they have a really good insurance policy if something dire was to happen in the front court as far as injuries with Kristaps Porzingis or Al Horford. If one of those 2 guys go down for a long time for the Boston Celtics, that could be a little problematic for them. But now making this deal, giving up Lamar Stevens, who I don't believe was in the rotation for the Boston Celtics, and then 2 additional second-round picks to bring in a player like Xavier Tillman, I think that's a great thing. He's just 25 years of age, and also he has playoff experience against teams like the Los Angeles Lakers, the Golden State Warriors. So he has played some productive and meaningful basketball in his career. So that's one thing that I think is just really important. If something happens to Kristaps Porzingis, something happens to Al Horford, you have a guy who has great experience and has a high basketball IQ that you can throw into the rotation. And once he gets sped up to the Boston Celtics system, I think he's going to fit like a glove, especially on the defensive side of the ball. So now that we established that the Boston Celtics, they've got that insurance policy in case one of their vital bigs get hurt, now we can talk about how good Xavier Tillman is and how underrated of a pickup this is for the Boston Celtics. Now, when it comes to talking about Xavier Tillman, who is labeled as a center in today's NBA, one thing I want you guys to consider is his physical makeup. Now, he stands at 6'8", 245 pounds, and he has a 7'2" wingspan, and that's really what makes Xavier Tillman as valuable as he is in today's NBA, is his elite athleticism and his elite versatility on the defensive side of the ball. Now, Xavier Tillman, like we just established, he plays that 5 spot, but really he can guard 3 through 5. He can guard some of the bigger forwards in the NBA, some of the forwards that can attack from the perimeter. Just last year in the playoffs, we saw him going back and forth between LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And I was doing some reading before this video. I was reading an article, it was actually by the Boston Celtics blog, and they said last year in the playoffs, when being guarded by Xavier Tillman, Anthony Davis shot 15 of 35 from the field. And also statistically, Xavier Tillman guarding LeBron James was more successful than Dillon Brooks guarding LeBron James. So that's how good Xavier Tillman is on the defensive side of the ball. And that is going to be so vital for the Boston Celtics. We look at the road that they're going to be going through to get to the NBA Finals. And when they get to the NBA Finals, possibly some of the bigs that they're going to have to go through. We're talking about Joel Embiid, who is a monster on the low block. We're talking about Giannis Antetokounmpo, who gets busy on the low block. You have Bam Adebayo in the Eastern Conference. And then on the other side in the West, you have the Joker, and you also have Anthony Davis. So it does not hurt to have Xavier Tillman in your back pocket in case Kristaps Porzingis gets into foul trouble trying to guard one of those bigger guys. Same thing with Al Horford. So when that happens, you have Xavier Tillman, who you can put into the game, and he can do a pretty good job guarding those guys. And one thing that's so cool about Xavier Tillman is that he's very versatile on the defensive side of the ball. And one of the scariest things that an offense can face is a big man that can hedge. We look at some of the best defenses in the NBA, the Los Angeles Lakers, when they're playing meaningful basketball and they're playing playoff basketball, they're one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, and one of the biggest reasons is because they have Anthony Davis, who's so good in pick and roll situations. He knows how to play the ball handler, and then he's fast and athletic enough to get back to the big while he's still rolling to the rim. And another center that does a great job of that is Bam Adebayo from the Miami Heat, probably the best hedge defender in all of the NBA. Bam is so quick laterally, and then Xavier Tillman, he has that same thing to him because he has that ability, he has that athleticism, quickness to step out on the outside, guard quicker guys. Once he establishes that help, he can get back to the big and protect the rim. So that's probably the biggest thing that the Boston Celtics are getting from Xavier Tillman, a guy that is so good at rebounding the basketball, playing post defense, and then also playing defense on the perimeter and pick and roll defense. So for a team like the Boston Celtics that has so many defensive weapons, Jrue Holiday, Derek White, these are guys that have made all NBA defensive teams. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, they are high-level wing defenders. Al Horford, even at the later stages of his career, is still a great low-post defender. And then Kristaps Porzingis is also a great rim protector. Now they get another defensive ace to the team in Xavier Tillman. So this is really cool for the Boston Celtics. And offensively, Xavier Tillman is still at a point in his career where he's still developing his offensive game. But like we just established, as many defensive weapons that the Boston Celtics have, they have just as many offensive weapons. And I don't think that they're going to be asking too much for Xavier Tillman on the offensive side. Of the ball, but he's still really good in pick and roll situations as that roll man. He's really good and really underrated on the short roll as well. He has a very high basketball IQ. He knows how to watch plays develop and make the extra pass, or even make a pass leading to assist. He can finish and catch lobs around the rim, which is really good for ball handlers like Derek White, Jrue Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. He'll be a good relief for them rolling hard to the rim. So the Boston Celtics picking up Xavier Tillman. I know Xavier Tillman, he's not an all-star. You look at his numbers. He's not putting up crazy numbers, but this is a really, really good pickup for the Boston Celtics, and for a team that's dominating the NBA at such a high level that they are. It's very impressive that they found a way to get better before or by the NBA trade deadline. I'm recording this on a Thursday, so today is the NBA trade deadline. So far, the Boston Celtics have not made any more moves, and I'm gonna be very hurt if they do make another move by the time this video is edited and uploaded, because I would have liked to have talked about that as well. But nonetheless, that's what I want to talk about with you guys today. The Boston Celtics once again show their dominance off the court by making another cerebral trade. But that's going to be it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed, please leave a like. Let me know in the comment section how you feel about this deal, and then subscribe for more weekly content. We do this all the time, man, and that's curtains.